The road narrowed the farther they drove, until it was no more than a trail of broken asphalt winding through a forest that didn't seem to end. Trees leaned in overhead like they were trying to blot out the sky, branches gnarled and slick with moisture. Fog drifted low, crawling along the ditches and creeping up the wheels of the car like fingers. Isaac hadn't said anything for miles. His hands gripped the wheel, white-knuckled, while the GPS repeated the same error. Recalculating route, there was no signal, no service, just the winding path and the rustling of leaves that didn't match the wind. In the passenger seat, Mara stared at the screen of her dead phone. It had died 2 hours ago, fully charged, then nothing. No warning, just a black screen and the sound of the forest getting thicker. "Are you sure it's here?" she asked, finally breaking the silence. Isaac nodded slowly. "It should be. The church was marked just off this road. Old maps say it's here. Locals won't talk about it." "Won't talk about it," Mara echoed. "Always a good sign." They came upon the fork a few minutes later. The left path dipped and vanished into fog. The right path, unmarked, was little more than dirt and crushed leaves. But something pulled at Isaac. "This way," he said, turning onto the unmarked trail. The forest swallowed them whole. They saw the steeple before they saw the building. A tall, black silhouette against the low gray sky, rising like a finger pointing toward a god who no longer listened. The cross at the top was bent sideways, rusted and broken, more like a hook than a symbol of salvation. Then came the rest of the church. It was built of blackened stone, not wood, which was strange for a building this deep in the woods. Moss climbed the walls like veins. The stained glass windows were cracked and dark, shapes inside barely visible. A bell tower jutted above the roof, the bell itself missing, just a yawning hole where it once hung. They parked near the treeline. Isaac stepped out first. The silence hit him like a wave. No birds, no wind, not even the buzz of insects. Just nothing. Mara got out slowly, eyes scanning the structure. "It doesn't look abandoned." Didn't. Not really. Despite the rot, the roof was intact. The stone steps were clean of debris. Even the iron gate swung open easily, hinges oiled, as if someone had used it yesterday. They approached the main door. It stood ajar. Inside, it was colder than outside. Not just cooler, but cold. The kind of cold that feels wrong for the season. Their breath fogged in the air as they stepped through the doorway. The pews were still there, lined up in perfect rows. The altar stood intact, though covered in a heavy layer of dust. Candles rested in iron holders, burnt down to stubs. And at the very center of the room, in the shadow of the stained glass arch, was a chair. Wooden, worn smooth, facing away from them toward the altar. Empty. Mara moved carefully between the pews. "This is insane. Why would anyone just leave it like this?" "Because something happened," Isaac said. He was drawn to the front, to the pulpit. His fingers brushed across the old Bible still sitting on the stand. When he opened it, the pages were brittle and yellowed. Most of the words were faded, except for one passage, underlined in black ink so heavy it had bled through. "He who enters the house of God without faith shall be consumed by what he finds within." Mara touched his arm. "We should go." Before he could answer, the door slammed shut behind them. Hard. The sound echoed through the chapel like a gunshot. They spun around. No one there. No wind. No movement. Then, faint, from somewhere above, came the sound of a bell. But not the clear, ringing tone of metal. No, the sound was wrong. Hollow. Like something too large being dragged through a throat that didn't want to let it go. It rang once, then stopped. Isaac turned toward the staircase at the side of the sanctuary, the one that spiraled upward into the bell tower. He didn't remember seeing it before. Mara grabbed his hand. "Don't." But he was already walking toward it. The staircase was narrow, the steps worn and slick. Each creaked beneath his weight, like they hadn't been used in decades, or had been used too often. The higher he climbed, the darker it became, until the only light came from a crack in the wall, a sliver of gray leaking through broken stone. Then he reached the top. The bell tower was empty. No bell, no ropes, just the wind, and something carved into the stone wall in jagged, messy scratches. Words, dozens of them, overlapping. Don't ring it. It won't let you leave. Here's you. The door isn't a door. You can't unsee her eyes. The last service never ended under. Then, beneath it all, scrawled in what didn't look like ink. You're part of the sermon now. From below, Mara screamed. Not in fear, in pain. Isaac turned and ran down the stairs 2 at a time. The walls seemed to close in, the steps longer than they should have been. When he burst into the sanctuary, she was gone. No trace, not a footprint, not a sound, just the empty church, and the chair, now turned around, facing him. Isaac stood frozen. The chair was facing him now unmistakably, and it was warm. He touched the back of it instinctively. The wood radiated heat like someone had just been sitting there. His mind screamed for him to leave, to run. But there was nowhere to run to. The front doors were sealed shut. No handles, no seams, just wall. His voice cracked in the silence. Mara! Nothing. Not even echoes. The pews stared at him like rows of watchers. Silent, expectant. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Not from the nave. Not from the tower. From beneath. He turned toward the altar. Behind it, the wall was cracked, a vertical line like a scar. As he stepped closer, it widened. Not like stone breaking, but like something breathing. The stone pulled back in slow motion, revealing a doorway behind the altar that hadn't been there before. The air coming from it was wrong. It didn't smell like mold or rot. It smelled like memory. Isaac stepped through. Beyond the altar, the corridor descended at a slant. It looked like it had been carved by hand. Rough stone, narrow, the ceiling just high enough for him to walk hunched. The light dimmed the deeper he went. But the corridor never ended. He walked for minutes, maybe hours. The air thickened. He could feel the weight of it in his chest. And then, he stepped into another room. A replica of the sanctuary. Same pews. Same altar. Same stained glass, but different. Wrong. The stained glass showed him, standing at the pulpit, alone, hands raised in a sermon, eyes hollow. He stepped backward, heart racing. But the door he'd come through was gone. Just smooth, black stone. And now there were whispers, dozens of them, not loud but close, right behind his ears, repeating a phrase over and over. She was chosen. He followed. You stayed. You are the echo. Isaac ran. He pushed between the pews toward the front, but the altar stretched farther the more he ran. The room elongated, warped. The floor turned soft beneath his feet, like carpet soaked in water. He tripped and fell. The moment he hit the floor, the whispers stopped. The silence returned. He looked up, and Mara stood at the front of the church. Still, back turned. Mara! He yelled. She didn't move. He got to his feet slowly, cautiously. Every step forward felt wrong, like something was trying to stretch time itself. When he finally reached her, he placed a hand on her shoulder. Hey, Mara, it's me. She turned, and it wasn't her. Her face looked like hers, almost, but the eyes were too wide, the mouth too still. And when she opened it, the voice that came out was his. You already gave your name. He backed away. What are you talking about? The thing smiled. Why, hungry. When you spoke at the altar, when you read from the book, that was you saying yes. I didn't. You did. Behind it, the pulpit split open, cracking from the middle, stone turning to splinters of bone and teeth. From within, a rope unfurled. Not one to climb. A noose. It dangled, swaying side to side, though there was no breeze. The church began to collapse inward. Not in rubble, but in logic. The ceiling turned upside down. The pews reversed, sliding backward into the walls. The stained glass bled its colors down the walls like tears. And that voice returned. The one from the bell tower. The sermon voice. Rough, deep, inhuman. Welcome back, Brother Isaac. The last service is ready. He screamed. He ran again. This time toward the door, even though he knew it wouldn't be there. But it was. A small wooden door, standing open. Beyond it, a hallway that looked normal, lit by flickering yellow lights, tiled floors, a green exit sign blinking faintly. He didn't hesitate. He dove through it, and the moment he crossed the threshold, the church vanished behind him. Gone. No crash, no wind, just the sterile hum of lights, and an impossible hallway. He wasn't in the church anymore, but he wasn't free either. On the wall to his right, a sign. Floor -2. Reflection wing. Authorized entry only. Visitors must be accompanied. Below it, smeared in something brown-red, someone had written, "She's still here, but she's not Mara anymore." The hallway hummed faintly. Isaac stood still, breath ragged. The last echoes of the church's collapsing logic fading from his ears. Here, everything felt too normal. White walls, fluorescent lights, linoleum tile that squeaked softly beneath his steps. But that smell, like old photographs and boiled meat. He turned back to check the door. Gone. Just a blank wall. The same pale paint as everything else. He walked forward. The hallway branched, left or right. No signs, no windows. But from the right, he heard it. A voice. Familiar. Distant. "Isaac, help me." "Mara?" He ran. Twisting turns. Sharp corners. More doors than he could count. All marked with letters and numbers. R17, R18, R19 until he found it. R20. The door was cracked open. And inside, darkness. He pushed the door open. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly overhead. The room was tiled floor to ceiling, like a hospital ward. A mirror filled the far wall. But it didn't reflect him. It showed a different room, same dimensions, but empty. No door. No light. He approached it slowly. And then, his reflection walked in. From the side. Same clothes. Same blood on the shoulder. But the face wrong. Too still. Eyes fully black. Smiled at him. And then pressed a hand to the glass. Isaac instinctively stepped back. But the reflection stayed. Staring. Then it mouthed a word. "Wake." The mirror cracked. Just a hairline. But the sound was deafening. He turned to run. But behind him, the door was closed now. No handle. And worse, the room behind the mirror had changed. Now it showed Mara. Standing perfectly still. Facing away from the glass. The black-eyed reflection of Isaac moved behind her. Slowly. Methodically. His hand reached toward her shoulder. Isaac screamed. Pounded the mirror with his fists. It didn't react. The glass was warm. Then soft. Then his hand went through. The moment he crossed the mirror's surface, it was like falling into a dream, or drowning in warm syrup. He stumbled forward and landed hard, face first, on stone. The tiled room was gone. So was the hallway. So was logic. He was in a chapel, but older than before. Stone and candlelight. No pews. Only dozens of chairs, all facing a black, dripping mirror at the far end. And sitting in the chairs, people, dead, or something like it, eyes hollow, skin waxy. Each of them stared into the mirror, unmoving. None of them were Mara, but all of them had his face. Isaac backed away, horrified. He knocked over a chair. The sound echoed like a scream, bouncing off stone and into forever. All the heads turned, one by one, slow, crunching sounds as stiff necks twisted. And they smiled, in unison. "Welcome, reflection." A bell rang above. Once, then twice, then a third time. The same bell tower chime from the church, now deeper, slower, like it was counting how many Isaacs had arrived. A door opened in the floor, a trapdoor beneath the mirror. Steps led downward, but these weren't carved in stone. They were flesh, wet, pulsing. He didn't want to descend, but he wasn't in control anymore. His body moved, step by step, into the dark below. The further he went, the colder it got. Not temperature, emotion. All memory, all identity, drained from him with every step. He tried to remember who he was, why he was here, who Mara was, but it was like pulling thoughts through tar. At the bottom, a chamber, round, lined in mirrors. Each mirror showed a version of Isaac, screaming, crying, dead. One mirror, however, was black, empty, and then, slowly, an image formed. Mara, bound to a chair, eyes stitched shut, mouth gagged with something dark and moving. She twitched. Isaac reached for the mirror, and a whisper echoed through the chamber. "This is the price of seeing." He touched the mirror, and was dragged through. Możesz zakończyć su частину store. The mirror swallowed him, but it wasn't like falling. It was like being peeled, layer by layer, thought by thought. By the time Isaac hit the ground, he wasn't sure if he'd ever stood before. He was outside, but not outside. The sky above him was black. Not night, but empty. No stars, no moon. Only clouds that didn't move, like smoke trapped in glass. Beneath his feet was grave dirt, cold and loose. Around him, the broken skeleton of a church, warped and scorched. Its bell tower was intact, but the bell itself was twisted, hung not from rope, but from hair. Long wet, braided into knots. A figure stood beneath it, facing away. Mara, still bound, still gagged. Isaac ran to her. Her head turned. Slowly. Not by her will, but like something was inside her, rotating the neck from within. Her eyes were gone. Not stitched, not carved, just missing. And from her mouth the gag fell loose. Not a cloth, not vines, but a tongue. Not hers. Still writhing, still whispering. The bell must ring, Isaac. The voice wasn't Mara's. It was the church, or what remained of it. He stumbled back, heart jackhammering. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Hands reached from the dirt, thin, white, bone-like. Hundreds. They didn't grab him. They pointed toward the bell tower's base, where the steps descended again, this time inward, into the base of the tower itself. He didn't want to go, but the church was a mouth and he was already inside. The stairwell was tighter now, spiraling, not stone but ribbed, like the inside of a seashell, breathing, dripping, and at the bottom, the bell ringer. It didn't look human, not fully. Its back was arched, spine like a violin bow, ribs exposed and stretching in and out with each unnatural breath. Its face was a mask, wood nailed into what must have once been skin, carved with symbols, a keyhole in the center of its forehead. Chains bound its arms to the floor, but it rang the bell above, through the wires threaded through its tendons. Each movement sent a pulse up through the tower. A tone, low, wet. It was summoning something, or someone. Isaac stepped closer. The bell ringer's head twitched, and spoke without lips. "You brought the key." He looked down. The mirror key was back in his hand, dripping, pulsing, alive. The bell ringer rose, bones cracking, chains snapping. It reached for the key. Isaac refused. The bell ringer didn't flinch. "If you do not unlock it, it will unlock you." The chamber trembled. A mirror formed in the wall, not one he'd seen before. It showed the church above, except it was full of people. Not just shadows. Parishioners. Dozens of them. And him standing at the pulpit, smiling, bleeding from the eyes. "This is what you become if you ring the bell," the ringer whispered. "This is what the church wants." Isaac turned to run. But the room had already changed. Now he stood in a cathedral. Alive. Whole. Packed with people. Silent. Motionless. Their heads turned in sync. All Mara. Every face hers. But empty. Soulless. Waiting. A voice echoed behind him. Not the bell ringer. Not Mara. Himself. "Ring the bell, Isaac. Let me in." He turned. His reflection self. The same from the mirror. Eyes black. Smiling. Holding the rope. He pulled. The bell screamed. A sound like the sky breaking. The pews crumbled. The congregation collapsed, like puppets with their strings severed. The ground beneath Isaac cracked. And from the chasm below, the real church, waiting, calling. Isaac fell again. This time not into memory, not into reflection, but into truth. He hit the ground with a soundless thud. But he didn't land on anything. He landed in it. The floor was flesh, warm, quivering, veined with pulsing black light. Above him, the bell's echo lingered. Not as sound, but taste. Iron. Smoke. Something like teeth. Isaac rose. His hands were gone. No, not gone. Changed. Fingers split, mirrored, reflecting endless versions of themselves. Fractured reality clung to his skin like frost. The world around him was a womb of stone. Walls beating, breathing, and in its center, an altar, made of mirrors, stacked, smeared with blood. Upon it, the key, no longer in his hand, now lodged inside something alive, something bound in barbed prayer. It wept, not with tears, with names. His name, again and again. Isaac, it cried, 1,000 tongues whispering from a single throat. Isaac, it begged, voice splitting down a dozen mirrored corridors. Behind him, footsteps, slow, deliberate, glass cracking with every step. He turned, himself again, but more complete, more correct, wearing the bell's scream as a crown. You've seen it now, the reflection said. Isaac couldn't speak. His mouth was full of broken prayers. You've heard it. You've tasted what waits. A smile, too wide. The reflection stepped closer. You can leave, it offered. You can climb. You can wake. But it will never stop calling. A pause. Unless you finish it. Isaac looked to the altar. The key pulsed. The weeping thing opened its mouth. And inside, no throat, no tongue. Just a hole. Just the lock. He stepped forward. Hands trembling. Truth whispering through the cracks in his skin. And as he slid the key inside, the church exhaled. The mirrors shattered. And all the world turned inside out. Black, not absence, but arrival.